I right out of college, bachelor's degree, I got into law enforcement. I did that for 7 years. And I had the idea from that point to start a crime scene cleanup company in 2005. So I did that and, grew quite slowly. And then in 2016, I decided to franchise the company. And, here we are in the middle of a pandemic. And we've been able to, grow the company. And, the third year we were in the Entrepreneur Franchise 500. And this year we just made Inc. 5000 in number 768. So something like that. So, it's been a fantastic year for growth for us. We just signed our 36th franchisee today. So we're growing pretty quickly and we're super excited about it. So, I was 19 years old and I had no relationship with my family. It was always very stressed. There was no, common ground there. We didn't get along. So I was effectively on my own, right when I graduated high school. So I knew that I would have to go into the military to be able to pay for college. So I knew that if I gave them 4 years, they would literally give me the GI Bill and it would pay for everything. Mm-hmm. So I was never one of those people that, when I grow up, I want to be, a career in the military. For me, it was a means to an end. Mm-hmm. And I thought I can do anything for 4 years if they'll give me that, that money. So I enlisted in the Army. I was looking at all the branches and, the Marine Corps required 5 years. And I thought, well, why would I do 5 when I can do 4 and I'm still getting the same thing? So that was really the only difference why I chose the Army over the Marine Corps. And the Navy was never an option. I have no desire to be on a boat for 6 months at a time. So I went in and this was 1994. I was, no family support. I literally had to break into my parents' house to steal my birth certificate just so I could enlist because I didn't even have that. So I got my birth certificate. That's what they needed and went through everything, got into basic training, and I actually liked it a lot. I thought it was very challenging and I was learning such cool things that I would have never learned anywhere else, and probably will never use again, like, how driving Humvees and setting up Claymore mines. And I had never shot a gun before. So that was my first time doing all that. So I found it very interesting. This was during the time in 1994, Bill Clinton had just passed the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy. And that really, when he passed that, it gave me a false confidence that I was going to be okay because I thought that was my protection. Don't ask, don't tell, don't pursue. They couldn't pursue. So I had this false confidence that I was going to be okay. You just keep your mouth shut, you do your 4 years and you move on. So when I was in my unit, there was 28 women out of 400 or 500. There wasn't a lot. And we were all housed in different barracks. And it was giant open barracks. Like there was a cot every 2 feet. So it was one of those type of things. And so, you're in basic training. There's no privacy or anything like that. So at the end of basic training, we started getting called in to the higher ranking people, and they were interrogating us. And I didn't know what it was at the time, but looking back, it was a witch hunt. Mm-hmm. So they were calling each one of us in individually and asking who the gay soldiers were. Mm. And we're in basic training, we're 19 years old, and they were intimidating these girls. And they would push them and pressure them. So a lot of them would just dime out names without any evidence. That was never something that was discussed, without any evidence or anything like that. So they ended up getting 3 of us, and me being one of them. And I'll never forget, so they charge you. It's an actual crime. They charge you with an Article 15, and the penalty of it is 5 years in prison. So they gave me, I don't know about the other 2, they gave me an ultimatum of just get out and leave. The chance to go to trial. If you lose, you get 5 years in prison.
Wow.
So initially, being defiant as I usually am, I said, no, I'm not going to take the deal. Well, then they give you a military appointed lawyer. So, that's like a black man being a jury full of KKK members. Okay.
Right.
So I didn't stand a freaking chance. Okay. So I was like, okay, now I see how you guys are going to stack. And I have parents, no family, nothing. And I'll never forget my friends pressuring me, call your parents, see if they'll pay for a civilian lawyer. And I'll never forget, I called my parents and they were taken off guard and they didn't even know I was in the military in another state. And I said, I need a lawyer. And they said, for what? And I said, well, they're charging me with being gay. And I'll never forget, my mother says, well, are you? And I said, well, yeah. And she said, then you deserve it. Yeah. Yeah.
That stabs
so
you
I was
in the
like,
heart.
well, that went well. Yeah. That went well. Yeah. Johnny Cochran's on his way over, right?
Oh.
Yeah, that didn't work out so good. So needless to say, I knew the odds were against me. So I just took the discharge, not really understanding what that meant. So I'm going through the exit process, which is quite lengthy. There's a medical, they stripped all the clothes off of us and put us back in civilian clothes, and we lost everything that we had, right? They give you a one-way plane ticket, and then they gave me a stack of paperwork, which on the plane I looked through, and there is a discharge paper, and it's stamped homosexual on the discharge paper. And I thought, that's really a thing? Like, what happened to the don't ask, don't tell, and all this kind of stuff. So needless to say, when I was going back and applying for jobs, the question on the application is, have you ever been in the military? And I said, yes. And they said, reason for discharge. And I put it there, and I got denied for every single job I applied for. So I called that military lawyer up and I said, I can't get a job. And he said, you were only in the service for 6 months. Don't put that you were ever in. So I said, okay. Yeah. So I did it, and he was right. Got hired by the first place. I think that defiant 18, 19-year-old is kind of what I was trying to prove something. So they weren't going to help me. No one was going to help me with college or getting there or whatever. So my goal was, okay, I'll essentially torture myself for the next 4 years so that I can get this college degree. You think that's everything. And when that got derailed, I thought, I'm screwed. I really thought that. So what I learned from that was, you have to pivot. Life is going to take you down a different road than what you planned. And you can sit there and, get up in the fetal position and cry about it, or you can pivot and take the other road and see where that takes you. Mm-hmm. So when I got discharged, I thought, I'm screwed. I have no way to get a job, and I have no money. And now I still have no education. So essentially I put myself in a worse position than where I was originally. But what I did is I literally put a map of the United States on the wall, and I threw a dart, and it landed on Knoxville, Tennessee. And that's where I went in college.
Wow.
Yeah. I lived there for 1 year so I could get residency. And then I took out loans for the rest of it. And I worked 2 jobs while I was going to school, and it taught me resilience. And, looking back on that, all of these events that, individually would be catastrophic, but collectively, it almost takes my breath away when I really think about it, how compact they all happened within, 4 or 5 years. But looking now, all of these things happened for me, not to me. Mm-hmm. So it created where I am today. And now when, the shit hits the fan, so to speak, I look at it and go, well, that ain't nothing compared to what I was at before. Right. Homeless, 19, nowhere, with a discharge paper that was essentially the scarlet letter. Mm-hmm. But, you know, the military was not kind to my community at all. And, you know, I don't know how it is today, but it was bad enough that they were, you know, trying to discharge us based on an interrogation of rumors. But what was even worse is they paraded us around and called us the Chapter 13s. So that's the chapter for that particular discharge. So it's essentially, what I look at it is, what's the difference between that and forcing the Black community to drink out of a different fountain? It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It was just 1994 as opposed to 1960. Well, and it wasn't, I don't want to make it seem like it was easy and that I just, you know, was defiant, because I'll tell you, there was many times where I was beat up badly. And sometimes you just got to take a minute or a week and sit back and think, how can I pivot and how can I go a different direction? Because clearly life is not sending me this way. I was not meant to do my 4 years there. I was meant to pivot and have a different experience. And I probably wouldn't have had that experience if I hadn't have had the negative experience of the military. But, you know, I still cringe to this day when I hear members of the gay community say, I want to go in the military. And I cringe because I'm like, listen, I don't know how the atmosphere is now, but I can tell you that shit was bad back then. You know, it was really, really bad.
So this is incredible what you went through, not just not having your family support, but even being rejected there. And then being in an environment where you thought you were safe and clearly you weren't safe, to that then setting a precedent to being rejected for jobs. But you're on the other side of that now. We're a successful franchisor. What did you learn through those obstacles, those struggles? What did you learn, and what gift came out of that kind of a struggle? Wow.
Yeah, it's remarkable, but I think it's so important to talk about this because you have younger generations who have it easier, don't always remember that they do.
Yeah.
And to know that things have changed and things are changing. And even if they don't, they still face discrimination. They still face hardship.
Yes.
Every single one of, you know, our kids go through different things, but to know that you're just like the